Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleashed. I'm Scarlett Johnson, and this is presented by Moms for Liberty. Today, I am joined by someone who has been on the front lines in the war for our children and for sanity and education, not with hashtags, not just a keyboard warrior, but someone who has real courage and has taken on the system and won. So thank you so much for being here, Ryan. You are the former Oklahoma state superintendent, and now you're the CEO of the Teacher Freedom Alliance, a brand new national effort launched with the Freedom Foundation to basically provide alternatives to teachers so they don't have to be a part of Randy Weingarten's failure machine, her mechanisms through unions. And so this is something that is desperately needed in a time such as this. Every day the news has more and more headlines about how education has failed American children, both in K through 12 schools and in college. So thank you so much for being here, Ryan.
Scarlett, thank you for having me on. I'm a big fan of yours, big fan of the show, so I really appreciate it. And yeah, I know, the Moms for Liberty and you all have been fighting this fight for a while now. I've been leading the charge, and so our efforts are to try to give parents what they want in our schools, which are good teachers that aren't subservient to the teachers union, controlled by the teachers union. So that's why we felt so strongly about this effort.
Yeah, today it seems like the only way to get an A is to be woker than anyone else. Let's just look at a few headlines. I've just went through your X feed, and I know some of that's on our X feed, but you were with Trace Gallagher on Fox News discussing this story, the college kids who can't do basic math. Tell us more about what is happening in California. I know it's happening everywhere.
Right. So what we saw in California is some studies were released and they did a deep dive into colleges saying, hey, what exactly is going on with these college math classes? Because you continue to move kids into these remedial math classes in college. And so the colleges came out and said, well, the kids can't do basic math at any level. And so over 50% of them can't do that. So we're having to send them to these extra classes to do that. So then you take a step back and go, if college age kids can't do basic math, what were they doing in K-12? And so then you start unpacking that. And what you see again is this emphasis on your gender studies, your emphasis on this hatred of America, this anti-American curriculum. You see all the LGBTQ plus issues being pushed. What you don't see is that emphasis on math proficiency. What you don't see are aggressive programs like the tutoring programs we launched in Oklahoma to say, look, if you're struggling, we're going to help you. We're going to get you the resources you need. Instead, what you see is a continued focus. And again, you put that really well, Scarlett. It's more about how woke you are than how well you do math and how well you read. And so when you start unpacking these things, it has this massive ripple effect. They don't learn it in high school. So then they've got to go back in college. And they get out of college and they still can barely do math. And then they enter and they try to go get a job and they're still unable to do some of the basic functions that, frankly, we should have been able to teach them in our K-12 system.
When you dive into that report, and it was specifically about University of California, San Diego students, one of the highest ranking colleges in this country, I think it's ranked 27, that's 45,000 students on its campus, and 20% of those students couldn't answer a second grade math question. A second grade math question. And then even more, by 30-fold, they couldn't answer math questions that were intended for 8th grade students. This is a crisis. And instead of forming a something to address this, you see right here, Randy Weingarten, a task force on LGBTQIA plus rights. There should be a task force on math and reading and science and why our kids are falling so far behind. Instead, they are focused on this.
Yeah, and they're, frankly, they are becoming more open about their goals and initiatives, aren't they? They really don't care. They don't care if the kids can read. They don't care if the kids can do math. What they care about is, are you guys going to go in and join our left-wing agenda? And so instead of those pushes for things that would actually be helpful for academics, instead of empowering the parents, with tutoring programs and all the curriculum they could even use at home, things like that, that would be very, very helpful. What you continue to see them doing is they continue to push their agenda. And as parents continue to speak out against them, frankly, you see how hard they hold on to their power structure. I mean, they fight even harder to keep their power in place. And that's where, we continue to fight against, first of all, getting teachers to leave. And well, first of all, get them to understand how bad the union is, because a lot of teachers, they don't know exactly where all their money is going when they're in the teachers union. And then number two is to get them to opt out. Optouttoday.com is a website that we've got to help teachers get out. And then to join the Teacher Freedom Alliance to say, listen, we want to partner with parents. We want to focus on academics. Again, we want to address when kids aren't proficient in math or proficient in reading. And we want to create good American citizens. That's the other part of this, as well as we're talking about math, reading, and science, we've also got to strengthen that understanding of American history, love of country, patriotism, and citizenship. These are the basics we've got to get back to, not LGBTQ plus issues that is just absolute nonsense to inject into our schools.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. When you look at the overall scores across the country, it's easy to deduce that when our kids are graduating high school, they are completely unprepared for college. I have heard some friends of mine that work in the university say that college is the new high school, that basically they have to spend the better part of their first and second year just getting them a high school education. And these are the top kids, the kids coming from the schools across the country that are ranked high. So, I mean, what does that say if you are struggling in an inner city school district? I think a lot of the so-called woke policies that are intended to help disadvantaged students actually hurt them the most.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. And what you see is all of this victim blaming or victimhood, all of this CRT, DEI, all of that nonsense. It actually hurts the people that they claim they're trying to help with that. What would be helpful is back to an understanding of high expectations, high academic standards is actually incredibly beneficial for kids. We all know that have kids, right? Parents and grandparents out there, kids will rise to the level of expectations you put on them, whether that's their behavior or whether that's their academic performance. Again, if you expect low things of kids, oftentimes that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you expect high things of them, again, kids are capable of great things. God created every kid uniquely with unique talents. But what you continue to see is this participation trophy mentality, this, hey, make excuses for every child, turn them into a victim. That's one of the most damaging things you can do to kids, instead of telling them what you should, which is, hey, you are capable of greatness. You are capable of really having a positive impact on the world around you. You're capable of getting a great job, of creating a great job. You're capable of having a family and living a life that fulfills you with a lot of contentment and finding truth in this world. That's an empowering message. That is a hopeful message. That's an encouraging message. Their message not only hurts the kids, it actually puts them in very dark places where they don't believe that they can actually do anything with their life or actually have hope.
So this is a Truth Social post by the president. Great job, Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Walters. Strong, decisive, and knows his stuff. I love Oklahoma. So real quickly, you became the state superintendent of Oklahoma. And that's, I would think, boy, that's a red state. There's probably no DEI in Oklahoma. Would I be wrong?
You would be wrong. We had to fight very, very hard to get DEI, CRT, pornographic books out of our schools. I was actually sued by some of the largest school districts in the state for telling them to take gender, queer, and flamer out of elementary school libraries. So superintendents were fighting so hard to keep those books in their elementary school libraries. They sued me and took me to the state Supreme Court over it. So, I mean, listen, the education system is controlled by woke left-wing teachers unions, administrators, and an establishment system that is there to indoctrinate your kids. So when you come in, you've got to come in as a change agent. We thought we were able to have the biggest reforms in the country in Oklahoma by taking that head on. But it doesn't matter how red your state is. The education system is one of the last institutions that is still controlled by the left. And by the way, that's where I applaud President Trump so much for his efforts to say, listen, we're not here to reform the federal Department of Education. We're here to get rid of it. And it's so key because President Trump understands, hey, you just can't move a few people around or change an initiative here. This system is corrupted. And so he is so spot on with eliminating the Department of Education. You've got to come into states. And frankly, one more point on that. It's so important once we eliminate the federal Department of Education that we also get rid of the teachers' unions. Because if we don't get rid of the teachers' unions, you lose the federal Department of Education that gave the left so much control. But then the teachers' unions will just step into that power vacuum and take that control for themselves. So it's so important that we continue a two-pronged approach, eliminate the federal Department of Education, which President Trump and Secretary McMahon are doing, and eliminate teachers' unions.
So you can see Wall Street Journal opinion, they just put out this excellent article. Big labor bosses favor Democratic candidates isn't news, but unionized workers might be interested to learn how much of their dues money is going to politics. And that's something that your organization is trying to point out to teachers, that your money is being spent to elect woke radical people, and it's not being spent to further the mission of teaching, to help children. This money, it's pure political politics. They're acting like a PAC, not a public interest group.
No, that's exactly right. The teachers union is a money laundering scheme for the Democrat Party. That's what they are. What they do is they sit here, they go to the teachers, they claim that we're just a group of teachers that are here to support you and do A, B, and C. That's all we are. Teachers agree and join. A lot of states are bullied, pressured to join. They're part of their paycheck goes into the union. They never know where all those union dues go, what all they do. And then what we see is over 90% of their political donations are to the Democrat Party. What we see is them funneling millions and millions into these races for some of the most extreme candidates in the country. And so part of our campaign is getting the word out to teachers of, guys, they are literally taking your money, not to help support you, but to support these radical left-wing candidates. And so that's a key part of our initiative, is to defund the unions, get the money out of the unions. Teachers, we're going to free you. We want you to be the best teacher you can be. We don't want you to be controlled by one of the most radical Marxist organizations in this country's history. But that first part of just letting them know where their dues is going, honestly, is very powerful and causes a lot of teachers to leave on that note alone.
Yes, I don't think that they joined these unions to become activists. I think they joined to teach and to provide protection for themselves and their job. I feel like they've been betrayed, and I hope the more that they learn, they feel that way too. And they have the ability to opt out of unions. Like in Wisconsin, Act 10, like they can opt out of unions, but I'm telling you, there's a concerted effort in my state to repeal that and again, force them back into the unions. That is high on the agenda, and probably part of the reason why we've just learned that the Democratic Socialists of America feel like they have some tailwinds, and they are investing heavily now into school board races next year. I've just read that they've targeted like 210, 212 school board races with DSA candidates. That's George Soros money. So we are in a very precarious position. And we need groups like yours and like mine, Moms for Liberty, to fight back harder than ever, because I think they're seeing the gains that we have made and that the Trump administration has made. And they're now, the empire is striking back.
No, that's such a great point. And something, George Soros, there's two things he does in part of his overall strategy. Remember, it was about a couple decades ago that he started investing in all these local DA races. And people are going, why is Soros money going into DA races? Well, you see why. Because even in red states, when you pass good legislation, if the DA is a left-wing activist, it doesn't matter, because they're not going to enforce the law, right? And they're going to use lawfare against conservatives. I see a similar strategy going on with Soros and these school boards, right? Hey, red states, you can pass an anti-CRT law if you want. If I control the school boards, that local school district is still going to force CRT anyway. I mean, it is such a part of what we've seen from the left, which is, hey, no matter what you do, we are going to find ways around it anyway. And that's where we have to stay vigilant on getting involved in those elections. We've got to stay vigilant in making sure that you've got good folks running, good folks being supported. And again, there is nothing more powerful than a parent who raises a red flag on an issue in a district, on a parent going to a school board meeting, on a parent running for office. That is one of the most powerful things in the world, I believe, is to have a parent say, this is my child. What's being done to them is not helpful to them. It's harmful to them. This is what I want for my child. I frankly don't know how you have people that argue against that, and these elite leftist educrats that come in and say, no, we know better for you, for your kid. It's outrageous. The American people reject that notion. But you make a great point here. George Soros is doubling and tripling down. The empire will strike back.
Mm-hmm.
So we have got to remain vigilant, and we've got to stay smart with our strategy to counter that.
Yes, then conservatives and Republicans have to invest their time and energy into organizations like ours that we know what we're doing. We have been fighting this for 5 years, and I know many members that they've been fighting this way longer. I've just talked to some folks that they knew what was happening in 2012. They're from California. So we know how to win these races. It's just we're operating on shoestring budgets. So we need the investment of resources and people running for office, people helping those who are running for office to combat this orchestrated strategy on the left that should surprise no one. It should surprise no one that they're going to try to look moderate. They're going to try and look like they care about kids, but you don't care about kids if your number one goal in life is to shove gender queer down their throats when they're in elementary school. I would show some images of that book, but then I would be censored on social media. That is how bad that material is. It's actually the worst of the worst. So is Flamer. And that's unreal that you are fighting that in Oklahoma. That's just kind of unbelievable.
You know, and you make a great point about this too, and I want to make sure and that your audience understands what you just said there, which is what we are all up against. The reality is the left. Listen, I will give them credit on this. They are incredibly organized. That they are incredibly strategic with what they do. Right? They have built out and captured institutions. They have utilized and taken advantage of taxpayers in the education system. So when you look at the teachers unions, I talked a lot today about money, and I talked a lot today about the millions and millions of dollars that they take from teachers that are frankly taxpayer dollars that they use for political purposes. But the other thing that they do that is very, very tough is they are able to organize millions of people across the country with these union associations that they have, and they are able to then utilize them into running for office, utilize them into going and supporting candidates, utilizing them to going and protest, fight against President Trump. But you saw one of the big No Kings rallies. They were one of the ones behind that. But when you see Moms for Liberty and other groups, when they are jumping into these elections, they are going against a machine that has been doing this for decades, that know how to organize, have, again, frankly, used taxpayer dollars to organize, have built out these operations that it is incredibly difficult to defeat. Now, we can do it, but we've got to work together. We've got to move behind these conservative principles. And to your point, Moms for Liberty knows what they're doing. Moms for Liberty has been in this fight. Again, these are things that we've got to consider moving forward. Is we've got to continue to support good candidates. We've got to continue to get involved. And we've got to support the groups that know what they're doing and equip them to fight back.
Yes, we've won. This was just in the Daily Caller. I just posted about this. We won over half of the school board races that we endorsed. Over half of our candidates won. And when you consider, it's huge considering what we're up against, the machine that we're up against, and how we have taken our limited resources and just tried to apply them and target some races and endorse some candidates, and over half won. And then one of the big reasons that they cite for their win is what's happening in schools. It's the fact that schools are more focused on this LGBTQIA plus agenda and providing kids age inappropriate materials than they are about actually educating kids. And for your organization now, for those parents tuning in, I think, could you explain to them what Teacher Freedom Alliance is and how it's different from the other unions that we've been battling for years?
Yeah, so we're not a union. What the union does is they come in to take you back to that. What the union does is they come in, they tell teachers they have to join. We're going to negotiate. We're going to collectively bargain. We're going to represent you. We're going to go into the district and ask for more money, do this and that. So what we say is, guys, you don't have to do any of those things. First of all, there's a Supreme Court ruling, Janus, that says you don't have to. But number two, guys, you can negotiate your own contracts. You can be part of a district contract. There's nothing that says you've got to be part of a union to do those things. So what we tell teachers are, hey, listen, what do you need as a teacher? Some teachers say they're concerned about their liability insurance. Well, what if I get sued? What if something happens? We provide that for them. The second thing they say is, well, I've got to go get professional development to continue to keep my license, my certificate. And I've got to go back to the unions to get the trainings to keep my license, and we provide that in all states. So again, what we're able to do is come in and say, teachers, here's what we're going to do. We'll provide those things for you, but we're going to train you on how to teach your academic subject to the best you can. No woke nonsense, no left-wing nonsense. The other thing that we're going to do is teach you how to create good American citizens. We train teachers on American history. We train them in the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, the Declaration of Independence. And then lastly, we teach them how to fight back against left-wing extremism in the school, how to fight back against the teachers union and their tactics. So what it is a way for us to get good teachers in the classroom, good teachers equipped to teach your kids. And then frankly, the last part, that providing them the tools needed to fight back, because they are in the middle of this fight as well with you, the parents, against these left-wing extremists, the teachers unions. We try to make sure that they know exactly how they can fight back and exactly how they can win this war and get our schools back on track.
I was just at a conference with Defending Education, and the keynote speaker was Miss Snuffy. I'm sure you've heard of her. She's the British school head mistress that's famous. She's really wonderful. And she said that when she gets new teachers every year, she has them sit through basically an anti-DEI course. Starts off with this like week-long course where she kind of drills into them just basically that the real truth behind gender ideology. And she does it in a way, she said, it takes about a year. But after a year, she starts off that way. But after a year, we're constantly sending articles and just sitting down and talking with them and providing them just an alternative, that they're transformed, that they see the world differently. Plus, they are working with these students, and most of them come from disadvantaged backgrounds, and they're applying real world working principles in the classroom. And they see kids flourish, and it's amazing. So I think it's huge what you're doing, providing an alternative, because teachers are required for their licensure to go to a certain amount of hours of professional development every year, but they can't be forced to go to a certain development. So if you're providing an alternative, that's huge. That means that they're actually getting real tools, and they also don't have to sit through indoctrination and possibly be influenced by it.
No, that's exactly right. And that's where we're able to come in and say, listen, we can do this where you've got good people that don't want any part of that. But frankly, a lot of good teachers say, yeah, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what else to do. I'm going to lose my job if I don't get these hours. And so again, providing that for them, giving them very good professional development, getting them, again, a better understanding of American history and a better understanding of what parents want. We always talk to the teachers about this. It's so important, and we teach them ways. And again, we work with groups like Moms for Liberty to say, hey, here's what the parents are asking for. This is what you've got to make sure you provide for the kids. And again, the teachers we work with are going, that's exactly what we want to do. And so again, as we continue to grow, we've got thousands of members across the country. We're going to continue to find these good teachers, train them, but also help them fight back, because again, we've got to take these districts back. We got to have good, bold leadership from teachers. And so again, we think it's so crucial in this fight to get the schools back on track that we've got good teachers that are willing to engage and fight back.
What we hear from teachers is that a lot of times they're afraid to speak up. They fear retaliation, like you said, from union. How widespread is that intimidation?
What was that last part?
How widespread is that intimidation, do you think?
Oh, it's very widespread. You see it some in red states, but you see it in the blue states where they are intimidated to join the union. They are doxxed. We've seen people show up at their house. We were in Colorado Springs a few weeks ago, and we saw that the union tried to go on strike, and teachers went and taught anyway. And the union came out calling them scabs. They protested them, tried to go meet them at the doors. We're making Facebook posts about where they live, everything else. So, the intimidation is very strong for teachers to join the union. If they leave, they're often targeted. We have members that tell us stories about all of a sudden they leave the union and their administrators start targeting them as well. And so it is a very difficult battle for teachers that want to leave the union to, first of all, just leave it. The union makes it incredibly difficult to leave. But then secondly is deal with the repercussions that come from the union bullying you and targeting you once you leave.
Wow, that makes what you're doing so important. If you could wave a magic wand and the Teacher Freedom Alliance succeeds, which I think it will, what do you think American education could look like 5 years from now?
I love that question. Here's what I see. If we succeed in what we're doing, what you're going to see are schools that look transformatively different. You're going to see schools where parent involvement is absolutely the center of everything that they do. So you'll see parents back in classrooms. You'll see parents very involved in curriculum decisions. You would see a family unit very engaged in an educational product. You would see schools promoting Americanism. Think about that. Think about an education system where our schools are actually saying, we want you to be patriotic. We want you to love America. We understand that is key to our core mission as schools in America is to continue the greatest country in the history of the world that is front and center of everything that we do. And then lastly, an emphasis on academic performance where you see the ability for kids to go in different pathways throughout their school experience. Where, hey, if they decide that they want to do this job or that job or go to college, these paths can be accelerated for them. High expectations means that kids are going to pursue their dreams in a much different way. So you're going to see an education system that's patriotic, that is family-oriented, where families are back involved. And lastly, you're going to see kids hitting these expectations. You're going to see schools unlock potential for learners, which means a continued, you talk about getting a job, you talk about all those things and what they mean for a kid. What it really means is a fulfilled life, because there's nothing more fulfilling in life than utilizing your God-given talents, having a family, finding that truth in this world of what truth is, which is what education should be seeking out. You see families that stay intact. You see a stronger society. You see a stronger America. That's where I see the country going when we're successful.
That sounds amazing. So in closing, if you had 30 seconds to speak directly to every teacher who feels trapped in this system, what would you say to them right now?
I would say, listen, there is, it's a free country. Practice your freedom. Join the Teacher Freedom Alliance. Go to teacherfreedom.com. Get out of the union. You got into education because you want to help kids. You want parents to partner with you to have a great educational product for their children, because you want kids to be successful. You do not have to go through the teachers unions. We can absolutely help you and equip you to be able to do that. And we're going to have your back. If the teachers union comes after you, if the school district comes after you, we've got attorneys ready to go to fight that fight with you. So we're going to be fighting alongside you. But again, we want to help you fulfill your dream, which is helping kids in the classroom and helping parents. And so that's what we're here to do. And we would love to work with you.
Yes, and I have right here on screen. I love that. Public education is worth saving, because it absolutely is. you can, I know there's been a surge in attendance to private schools and homeschooling, and that's wonderful. But the majority of Americans are going to be educated in a public school. And you can't just say, pull your kids out, because there are rural areas, as you know, where there are no options. And there are parents who cannot homeschool their kids, whether they're a single parent or they just can't financially do it. So public education needs to be saved. We can't just leave all of these children behind, and we can't leave all of the teachers behind either. And it's so great the organization is providing so many different services, the legal help, the professional development, and the support system, so that they don't have to feel alone. I know a lot of teachers, when they finally are red pilled and they basically are forever changed, they can feel really alone until they talk with organizations like ours and yours, and then they suddenly realize, oh wait, like there are a whole bunch of people that think just like me, but we've all been cowed into silence.
No, that's right. I mean, the community is so important. That's one of the things as we have teachers that join. One of the first things they say is, "This is amazing to be, connected with hundreds and thousands of teachers that think like I do." I felt so isolated in my district or in my building, but now I'm part of this broader community. And I just think it's so important as we continue to move forward that we're able to connect patriots together, that we're able to all work together to continue this fight forward, to make sure that we're able to accomplish these things. Because again, as you continue to see, the left does that. The left, hey, they are connecting every left-wing radical group in the country is working together to destroy this country. Patriots need to work together to save this country. And so I think it's so important that we're able to connect these teachers with the good parents, with the patriots across the country to save it.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to end. That's mic drop. There you go. So Ryan, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for being a joyful warrior in this battle for the hearts and minds of America's children, for your work in Oklahoma, and now that your work you're trying to do nationally. We are so grateful at Moms for Liberty. We love you. We are so happy to have you at our Joyful Warrior Summit on our panel. And I got to talk to you behind the stage too. And so it was really great. So I'm so grateful you and for Teacher Freedom Alliance. Your work is so necessary in a time like this. Thank you. And if there's then I think we're done there.
Awesome. No,
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for having me.
The unions have bullied teachers. They have undermined parents. They've pushed woke politics while our kids fall behind in basic math and reading. But tonight we're showing that the unions have bullied teachers. They've undermined parents. They're pushed. The unions have bullied teachers. They've undermined parents. They're pushing woke politics while our kids fall behind in basic math and reading. But tonight we're showing America that the tide is turning, and it's